All right, new Falls Count Anywhere podcast, part of the Earnestly podcast. I'm your host, Ernest, EJ Christian. It is finally after what seems like months or how long it's been. We are finally here. It is WrestleMania week. And of course, joined here every week by my esteemed co-host here of the podcast. It is Mr. Rob Barnett, Rob the Genius. Follow him on Twitter, Arbon1, or on Blue Sky as well, too, on Arbon1. Rob, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Are you finally? I mean, it's finally here, man. All this time, man.
This is done.
Yeah, all this time. Of course, we're here live. Of course, you can get chatted and join the comments here section while we're live here. We're going to preview WrestleMania 41 in just a second. Of course, our podcast goes all podcast catchers. You can subscribe to the podcast on any audio platform, as well as on YouTube, the video side at Earnestly Pod on YouTube. We recently crossed 400 subscribers. We're doing very well there on YouTube. You want clips of the show, of course, Earnestly Pod on TikTok as well. So a lot to get to today, Rob. Simple show today, but a lot to get to.
Yes.
Very WrestleMania focused. Obviously, we'll preview the show itself. It's 2 nights, so we got to go through 2 cards, Saturday and Sunday. But also, we've been doing a series also as well recent weeks about from I don't want to say a friend, but a wrestling content creator called OVW Dropout. It was Dropout, where he has this 5-part thing on 3 people who should be in the Hall of Fame. We did the first 2 parts. We'll get to that part 3 today on the show. But since we're in the WrestleMania spirit, I wanted to discuss with you, because we do all these rankings all the time, and and it doesn't get boring for the record. I love doing it, but I've been going through and we'll cover this next week on the show. WWE just recently did their top 50 list of WrestleMania matches and all that stuff. We'll get to that next week, but it got me thinking about going through the list, because I watch all those matches in order from 50 to now. I think on 9 right now, or 8. But it got me thinking about as I'm going through the list, because a lot of matches in there I had not watched ever until going through this list. Got me thinking about like the generations and generations of WrestleManias we've had. We're now on 41 this year. The amount of great performers we've had. So it got me thinking about, okay, who are, in your opinion, the Mount Rushmore, not matches or not WrestleManias itself, but actual performers? Because there's some great ones here, really. I need to pluck out of the litter. But who, in your opinion, Rob, your Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania performers ever?
Okay, well, I think there are 2 that are obvious. I think Shawn and Taker are obvious. I mean, Shawn, we all know. Well, Shawn, you can't have a Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania performers without Shawn.
I mean, he's called Miss WrestleMania for a reason.
Yeah. And now with Taker, I mean, it's volume, and then the fact that plus a lot of like the first 6 or 7 matches in the streak were not particularly great. But there was a point, I think, starting around maybe the match with Triple H at 17, I think.
Yeah.
Went from there forward. It was mostly very good. And there were some all-timers in there. I mean, both the matches with Shawn, all the Triple H matches, there were 3 of them with Triple H in there. Batista, Randy Orton, they're the Boneyard match, his final one.
It's funny too because Taker has a case. If you really go through his life, especially you mentioned like from 17 on, because there's some duds on early on from 15 down. Like 15 one because Bossman was terrible. Kane 14 terrible. Sid meh. You know what I'm saying? Diesel was okay. But from 17 on, you can argue almost every Mania match he did from 17 on is no worse than 4 stars.
Yeah, because I mean, like there were a couple in like the one with Mark Henry was okay, and there was
that 22?
Yeah, and then there was another one with Kane that was like when he went back to the the dead man gimmick. That was okay. Well, I mean, there were a few in there were okay, but I mean, if you look at the rest of them, like I said, all 3 Triple H, the 2 with Shawn, Batista, CM Punk, the Boneyard match.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people don't like. There are two matches that a lot of people dump on that. Honestly, I think are way better than they get credit for. The Brock match and the Roman match.
The Brock match that you lost, right? Obviously.
Yeah, and
That sounds a good match, actually.
I didn't. I mean, but a lot of people. Well, I think a lot of people dump on it
They're
because
playing the result. That's why.
yeah, and then now the match he had with Roman, like he admittedly was kind of physically breaking down,
Right.
but it also kind of played well into the match. I mean, because they told a story really around it,
Yeah.
around him, not being able to get up and do some of his things.
Yeah.
Um, and then I mean, so I think so Taker and Shawn are two obvious ones. From
Right.
then forward,
Mine also. I've taken Sean is also on my Mount Rushmore as well. So the
um,
other two would be interesting.
oh yeah, I mean, I mean,
I'll give mine real quick. My two.
I think, I think I put Hogan there because just, I mean, I mean, for just the sheer significance of
Yeah.
everything he did there, and because I mean, we're talking the first 9 WrestleManias, and then he, comes back and then for 18 and 19, and those were both really good matches.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think Hogan would be the third, and
Hogan has
then
the case. Hogan has the case.
and then fourth. I mean, we're just gonna go off of volume. Like, how many matches did this person have that were that were really good? I think fourth, you could say Hunter, possibly. Um,
Hunter has a great case actually.
yeah. Um, because again, because I mean, he has over 20 matches, and if you look at the ones he had, I mean, and again, he's another one that got. I mean, it took him the first 3 or 4 weren't anything to write home about, but then again, 17 with Taker, and then um, the triple threat at 20, and then 21 with Batista, and I think it was either 22 or 23. It was him and Cena,
Yeah.
and then 24 was him, Cena, and Orton. That was pretty good. And then there
Triple
was
threat, right? Yeah.
yeah, and then he had one. Then 25 was with Orton, and then was it
Those Taker.
27,
Yeah.
28 with Taker again, and then
Yeah. Back to back the years. And
and
and that's,
30,
and that's following up the classic with Sean. So for him
yeah,
to,
and
to, to
then
hold up to that standard was pretty damn good.
yeah, and then 30 with Daniel Bryan. That was like that might be the best opening match ever at
Yeah.
Mania. It's in
I
the
I agree with that.
conversation.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And then
Mhm.
Sting, and then the the mixed tag with Kurt and
Yeah,
Ronda versus Stephanie.
I just watched that like literally a week ago.
Yeah,
I remember I was telling you I didn't understand why it was so high, and you told me go watch it, you'll see why. And even though I still think it's too high, at the same time I understand it now. It's a really good match, great storytelling in that match. So
yeah,
yeah,
and then and then his last match with Batista, right? And then
yeah,
the Seth Rollins match also. I mean,
right,
so yeah, I think Hunter. I mean, yeah, I think he has a real good case for being number 4.
yeah.
So
So
I'd
my
say
okay.
Taker, Shawn, Hogan, and Hunter.
So my two, obviously, we ran the first two, and I actually don't disagree with that. There's no bad answers here. My third guy, and look, he doesn't have the volume because he was only there 9 years, but height of powers and the classic matches, you have to give him his due. Randy Savage was my third guy. I mean, obviously, look at. I mean, 2 was Steel was like whatever, but 3, I mean, I'll be speaking for myself with Steamboat. 4 against DiBiase in the final match after winning 3 in a row, then win the fourth one against DiBiase, win the title. That was a great match, as a convoluted it is with the tournament. 5 and Hogan was a solid match. I don't hate the match against Dusty in 6. I don't hate it. I mean, I know it's a little mess because of Sapphire and whatnot, but Savage made it work for what it was. You know what I mean? Of course, 7 against Warrior, fantastic 5-star match. Against Flair, fantastic match, 5-star match. Okay. And then a lot of people shit on the match against Crush at 9. If the stipulation wasn't different, it would be a solid match. It was a dumb stipulation, but the match itself wasn't that bad. They made it work for what it was. So Savage as a worker on the biggest stage was, I say 101, but he was definitely in that era. You can argue he was the original Mr. WrestleMania, honestly. And then my fourth guy, for the sake of argument, I do agree Triple H is in that conversation because Triple H has classics, especially from 17 up. But I'm gonna go bias here. I'm gonna go recent bias a little here too. Also, as someone who's an old school guy, but I'm gonna go Roman. Roman has stacked the deck in these last 5 or 6 years. He has stacked the deck.
Well, I think
I go ahead.
I think 31 with Brock is definitely.
Forget the fact that it was a heist. Let me look at the heist. Obviously, a great moment, but the match was great. The match was actually really good.
Yeah, and I mean that one, and then these last, I mean
4 or 5, right?
Because both the Cody matches and then the tag team with The Rock, those were all excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Again, a lot of people dumped on the match of 38 with Brock. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
It's just it ended up because I think he legit popped his shoulder out and they had to just get out of it.
Yeah.
But other than having to finish quickly, they had a really good match going. The triple threat with Edge and Daniel Bryan at was it 37?
Right. Yeah, 37. Yes, correct.
So it's just with him. People dump on some of his matches because the one with Hunter at 32 was just too long.
Yeah.
And
great match though.
Yeah, it's just they need to cut 10 minutes off of it.
Yeah, agree with that one.
And then the one at 34 with Brock was not good, and it was not good, and then the results sucked also.
Right. But these last few he did here, stacked the deck, and these 2 Cody matches, both of them. And by the way, I'll stand on this. I'll stand on God this one. I still think 39 was better than 40, and the result was the correct result because 40 does not matter if 39 doesn't happen.
Oh yeah, and because honestly, 40. Well, okay, the match last year was the one that actually had the story behind it.
Right.
39 was just a business decision.
Right.
Roman was the top guy, and Cody was the guy selling all the merchandise. He was the guy next to him.
Yeah.
And that's all that really was. That was just 39 was a business decision. And but 40 was one that really had the big story behind it. So that's why I think that's why they put 40 up where it is, and they don't really WrestleMania 39 didn't even make the list,
which is I think it's crazy because the better work rate match was probably. I'm not saying 40 wasn't good. 40 was really good, but 39 I think was they put the boots on that one. They really did.
Yeah, just with 40, all the run-ins dominated everything.
Yeah,
and that's
it's a moment more than anything else.
Yeah,
stands out. I agree with you on that. So
and other than that, because so many other people have just short. Like Kurt Angle wasn't there that long. To put and other than like the match with Shawn, the match with Brock, and then the mixed tag. He didn't. He wasn't there. It seemed like he just came and went so fast.
Right.
And then he was never. He was only in the main event once, and that was with Brock, and so those other guys we're talking about were in several main events. Taker, Shawn, Hogan, Hunter, they were all in several main events. Savage was in some main, he was in a few main events also.
Yeah.
So Kurt wasn't in that main events, so it's kind of hard to really put him up there like that.
But I think we agree that definitely the 2 guys agree on Triple H, not Triple H, Shawn Michaels and Taker. It's easy. Especially the work from the late work was out of this world. Hard to make argument for that. But Triple H, I think comes underrated though, especially too because some of these class matches he had, unbelievable. But it's always something we will debate throughout the years, and obviously as we get going to the 40s and WrestleManias, that we may have debates about newer guys. Like maybe Cody has stacks of deck on a couple of these matches here going forward. You know what I mean? That can change some of the conversation on that going forward, but. We do agree for the most part that the guys, if not mentioned in there, but definitely Honorable mentions like Triple H for me anyway is definitely in the conversation. All right. Also, we've been doing also anniversaries as well. Not that today is that it, but we are 10-year anniversary of. I just mentioned WrestleMania 31 and Roman and Brock, but it is 10-year anniversary of WrestleMania 31. You were watching this point, right? You were back watching.
Yeah. I was a few years back in at this point.
Yeah. What do you rate this WrestleMania all time for you personally?
Man, it's up there because if you look at it, so they opened with a ladder match that was really good.
Yeah, it was Daniel Bryan beating Bad News Barrett, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, Luke Harper, and R-Truth and Stardust.
Yeah,
it was a seven-man ladder match. Wow.
Yeah, it was for
Wow.
yeah.
7 men.
So that was a really good opener.
Yeah.
He had Seth and Randy, which was a good match. It was a good match with one of the best finishes ever. Maybe the best RKO ever.
The RKO was sick. It still gets played all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had Hunter and Sting, and
good
you
match.
had
Really good match. Great moments too.
Yeah, and you had Bray Wyatt and Taker. That was a good match also.
Mm-hmm.
You had Cena and Rusev, and that was all about the entrance, but still, but it was still a good match once they got in the ring.
Your boy Rusev, right? I know you're a big fan. What's your beef with Rusev, man?
I just, like, I don't know. I guess I was never blown away by him like a lot of people were, and then the fact that like he's one of those extremely online people.
Okay.
And he's always complaining.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then, like, it's one thing, like, if it's one thing if you only do that in one place, like, but then he went to AEW and he kept doing it. So then it's like, okay, bro, you're always online, you're always complaining, and you've done it in 2 different places. You the constant, okay? The one thing that's constant in all of this is you, okay?
Yeah.
And so I just,
So I've watched this show, like these matches, like separately. I don't think I've ever watched the entire show from start to finish, but I've watched most of these matches, not all of them, but like I've seen Taker and Wyatt. Obviously, we've seen the heist, Brock and Roman, but of course Seth Rollins with the cash in. And I've seen obviously Triple H and Sting, good matches by the way too also.
Yeah.
But just by the matches I've seen, I have to call space here. I think this is a definitely candidate for top 10 WrestleMania all time.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely top 10. I just I'd have to sit down and really think about it to decide where, but definitely top 10. And for me, like I was pulling for Roman. But like that main event was a match that really sold me and a lot of other people on him.
Yeah, correct.
Because just he went in there and he took a hellacious beating. And not just kayfabe. I mean, Brock was hitting him hard with
oh god, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he went in there and he took all of that. And and that's where he really proved, how well he could take bumps and sell and all that type of stuff. And and then look, I got more on his side as leading into it because I just thought it wasn't fair the way people were doing him.
I still to this day I don't understand why he was so polarizing in that era because all
right, it was at that point if it was a weird time because you had like this whole kind of cottage industry of like podcasters and stuff who were just crapping on everything they did. Which was weird to me because I came back in around 2012.
Right.
So that whole thing was new to me. So when I came back in, people were dumping all over Cena, like podcasters and bloggers and whatnot. And I didn't understand that because to me it's just like, okay, he's the because we came up in the Hogan era, right? And it's like, okay, he's that guy that's in that spot. What's wrong with that? Like that's what they do. They had Bruno, they had Hogan, now they got Cena. Like, what's the problem? That's the way I looked at it. I was like, what's the issue? Like that.
But it's what it felt with Cena though. It was like 50-50. Like it was like one of those things where like it was equally as hated as it was loved. And with Roman, it felt like It felt like Roman. It felt like I'm like go away heat for a little while for me. Anyway,
Well,
even while I was
but
watching it.
this was weird about it because and this is what and I noticed like they're different audiences for different shows
Yeah,
because even like during the midst of all that stuff with Cena with like I went to a few house shows and it was not 50-50 for Cena. It was all pro Cena at those. And I went to some house shows during this time with Roman, and it was the same thing.
same thing.
Because it's just they're different. It's just different. They're different crowds. Like people, and well, this was at a time where like because a lot of times people come to house shows, they're more casual fans. They're not because because house shows quote unquote don't count. You know,
Right.
or
True.
whatever. I mean, they do and they don't, right? I mean, but you have a different set of fans. Like it's more like kids and their parents, and it's more casual people who just want to, they want to go to the wrestling show and have a good time.
Yeah.
Whereas people who come to Raw and SmackDown, who come to pay-per-views, it's smarter, quote unquote, smart fans, more of them, and
Right.
it's more people who want to get themselves over and all this type of stuff. And during that time, like they just, you know, those people had nothing for Roman, and a lot of it was some of it because of that whole thing with CM Punk going on that podcast and talking bad about him.
Yeah.
Well, that gave a lot of those people a green light, but also it's just like that particular part of the audience, like if they found out, if word got out that Vince was that you were one of Vince's choices,
Boys. Yeah.
then they hated you, and that part of the audience, this quote unquote smart audience, if they found out,
It kind of felt like that Vince like forced him down everybody's throat out of resentment, out of pure like I'm going to show you kind of thing.
well,
Because he didn't let up at all.
because it was all right because I told you like you go to different if you went to different venues, you went to house shows, you got a whole different reaction towards them. It was always a positive reaction. I went to several house shows that he was on
Right.
during that whole period, and it was like night and day. And then he was the top merchandise seller. So like if you're Vince, like you have evidence to keep pushing the guy. Like it's like you can show people, like I can show he's like, look, I can show you I can show you merchandise sales. I can play you the reactions at these house shows where the whole building is cheering for him. And even on some of those shows where they were booing him, like the people, they would start out booing him, and then he hit some of his big moves, and then they would cheer it, and then they'd be like, "Oh, we're supposed to be booing," And
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember it was elimination chamber. Like the year he won one year he won the elimination chamber, right?
Right.
And like when it was down to him and whoever the last guy was, like people started booing because they thought, he's gonna win. And then he hit some of his big moves, and they popped for all the big moves. And then after the 3 count, they started booing again. And it's just so some of it was just performative. Some of it was legit, like smart fans just hated him because he was
Vince's guy.
Vince's guy. And and they felt and those people that part of the audience always felt like, if you're one of Vince's guys, then you were getting an unfair advantage over, people like Daniel Bryan or people who've been on the indies for 10 years or whatever. And it's just, you know, so it was just and so look, my two favorite wrestlers are both victims of that. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, my favorite, Roman's my favorite male wrestler of this era, and Charlotte's my favorite woman wrestler of this era, and they've both been victimized by that. Just
Yeah, but at least with Charlotte though, she leans into the well, number one, she's a heel, or so she leans into that whole thing. So
yeah, but I mean, but even with her, there have been times where they've tried her a couple of times,
yeah,
and and it being a baby face, and it's just like okay. But I think,
I never bought that dude. Even when they tried a couple years ago and she came back from like the injury, little baby, I never bought her as a baby face. Never bought that.
yeah, it's just, I mean, I
She's
don't
trying
know.
hard.
Well, because she'll tell you that herself. I mean,
Yeah.
she's been very vocal about that herself. That she, but I don't know that they tried it a couple times. But anyway, but we're talking about Roman here. It's just
Yeah.
I got I mean, I got more supportive of him because of the way people. Because to me, again, you're not you're not supposed to hijack the show, people. Okay, if you're supposed to, look, we're from that era. You root for the good guys and you boo the bad guys.
Yeah.
And for me, if if the good guys are not sufficient enough at being good guys, then you don't boo them. You sit on your hands and be quiet, you know, or you don't cheer or you cheer louder for some of the other good guys, right? I mean,
Right.
um, and to me, that's I mean, that's the only way I looked at. Like, look, I mean, people. Hogan was a baby face, and so was Tito Santana, but people cheered louder for Hogan, right?
Right. True. Very
People
true.
bought Hogan, and people more bought more Hogan merchandise, et cetera, right? And that they didn't. That's what settled it, right? They didn't come there and boo Hulk Hogan because they thought Tito Santana was getting a raw deal. Okay, I mean, they didn't do
Yeah.
that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But this era of that kind of late mid to late 2010s era of fans, those people they would have booed Hulk Hogan, and they would, and because they would have been mad that Tito Santana wasn't getting a fair shake. That's kind
Right.
of the mentality of people back then. And
Of course.
people,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the mentality of like during the best, especially during like the 2010s, that was the mentality. It was, the guy that Vince wanted was just should not be there, and it should be this other guy who, maybe had a harder way to go,
Yeah.
or didn't look the part as much, or whatever. And that was the thing with Roman. A lot of those people were they were mad at him. They're mad about that because Roman's out of central casting to be, your top guy for your company.
Right. Of course.
And that was a time, and so the quote unquote smart fans, they wanted, they mainly wanted Daniel Bryan, but then also other guys like him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Punk, and then, Rollins came through Ring of Honor and all that stuff. So, he was in, so he's another guy to fit that mold, right? And,
Yeah.
and then Finn Balor was another one. He was in New Japan and Ring of Honor and, and all that type of stuff. And so during the 2010s, like the people who call themselves smart fans, they were just constantly banging the drum for guys like that, and Roman was the antithesis of that, and so they just didn't like it, and that was where a lot of that came from.
Right. Well, all in all, I think WrestleMania 31 ages extremely well to this day, 10 years later.
Yes.
I don't know if I call it an inflection point, but it definitely was the mania that established these last 10 years. Established Seth Rollins as a star, established Roman. You said that you definitely were a Roman guy after this mania. It definitely established Brock and his dominance. It established, you know, Bray Wyatt run. It's a lot of things that happened in this mania that really set the tone for the next, 10 years. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and say that the next 10 years were great, but if you look at the last 10 years, high points, low points, this is definitely a high point for the company at 31, without question.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that's what we come out of looking at WrestleMania 31. So, we touched on some anniversaries this year. I was WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 11, 30-year anniversary. Obviously, 11 was a down point of the company. 21, I already told you guys, arguably top 5 for me WrestleMania all time. We're actually doing watch-alongs on the on the retro podcast we've been doing. We'll do another one hopefully this Friday. So yeah, but 31 is lots of watchability to this day. The only thing I hate about 31 is the same reason why I might hate about this one is that it's going to be in the daytime because it's on the West Coast. But I'll deal with that on my own, obviously, because I mean, I like my having it dark and the lights and the fireworks and all. You know what I'm saying? I just like that. So
that
it is what it is.
and that kind of it took all the steam out of Taker and Bray's ring entrances.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
To
saying.
be in the middle of to be in during the day like that.
Absolutely. Which, by the way, it will start now. The WrestleMania 41 preview, of course, taking place this weekend, April 19th, 20th, from Paradise, Nevada, at Allegiant Stadium. It's obviously 2 nights. It's the first WrestleMania in Vegas since WrestleMania 9, which took place 32 years ago. By the way, that documentary, I don't know if you watched it yet. Phenomenal documentary on WrestleMania 9. This came out last week on Peacock. So we have 7 matches for each night. I already have a preference of which night I like better. Spoiler alert, night 2 is loaded. but some great matches here, in my opinion. All right, first match, night one. Here we go. First match, you got Gunther against Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Rob, who wins this one and why?
I think Jay. I think this has been they've been building this moment for Jay since 2020. I mean, when he first faced Roman, this is the time to do it.
I think
And
for me, if not now, when?
well, yeah, they don't.
When do you
Yeah,
do
I
it? When do you
mean,
do it?
because look, I mean, I don't expect him to have a long title reign.
Right.
I think this is just a build this, but this is capitalizing off of all the 5 years of buildup and just the degree to which he's gotten over and sells all this merchandise and all of this stuff. Um, I think you pay it off here, and so I think look, this is and Gunther's role is basically this is it, right? He wins, he wins a belt, he holds it for a while, and then somebody gets there, kind of gets one of their little gets a magical moment by beating him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of that's what he's going to be. That's his role, and and he's really good at it. So,
right.
that's
I have no delusions of grandeur that Jey Uso will be a long term champion. To me, I've been saying all along that this feels like Kofi Mania 2.0. That's not an insult to Jay, but I think the WWE wants to create a moment more than anything else. And the Yeet moment here to play on the collages years down the road and whatnot. I think Jay will win this match, obviously. Would it surprise you that Jay loses the match? Does it surprise that maybe Jimmy comes out and screws him? Won't surprise me at all. I just think right now, I just think that's way too obvious. I think this is Jay's time. I think Gunther will get the title back. I think Jay will be champion through SummerSlam, and after that, we'll figure it out from there. But for now, give me Jey Uso as well to win the title. And I'll tell you what though, where would you put this match, especially on the card opener? Or would you put it
I think either it opens or it goes like smack dab in the middle.
Right. Hopefully it's dark enough to get the the whole like feeling of the crowd. So, all right, next match here we have the War Raiders versus the New Day for the World Tag Team Championship. This feels easy. This feels really easy.
I think it all depends. Like if I think if it's just straight up, I think New Day cheats and wins and they become tag team champions. The only other thing I can see happening is E coming out there and causing them to lose. Which I think they're going to win here though, because because again they did the heel turn.
Yeah.
And they haven't really done much with it booking wise. I mean, it doesn't
Not yet anyway.
No, but I mean, it's like you got to do something with it. If they don't do this here, then we're kind of like, what was the point?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people saying like they don't need tag titles because they've had it already. No, I disagree. They do in this role. They do need it.
And
why? Then what are we doing?
I hate when people say that.
Yeah. Well, I get what you mean, but I get what you're saying. But if you're telling me New Day as baby faces, do they need it necessarily? Not really. But to really make this heel term worth a damn, yeah, you kind of putting the titles on them right now at this point would be a smart thing to do here. And I personally like the War Raiders, but they're not really doing anything. They're not really moving the needle in any way that's gonna they win it. Now what? No, it makes sense putting there's a way to protect the Raiders here, and they have them get screwed by someone. Who knows who it is? And then New Day wins the title. And that's it. But that's easy. New Day for the World Tag Team Championship here. I'm with you on that.
And
all right, go ahead.
I hate it when people say somebody doesn't need the title. If you're somebody who wins a bunch of championships, then
you want more.
Yeah, and then because what all that is basically, people say that because they want that person out of the picture so that other people can have a turn.
Right.
And if you know me, I'm not here for giving people turns. Okay. I'm not. Okay.
I love it. All right, next match here: Rey Mysterio against El Grande Americano, aka
Chad Gable.
Chad Gable? Question mark. This is El Grande here, I think.
Well, this is another one. Because every time they've built Gable up a little bit, he ends up losing. Um, so I mean, again, if they're not going to do it here, because just been multiple times they've given him somewhat of a build, and then he always loses. Um, I mean, so if you're going to do that here, then what's the point? Again, but yeah, so I'm gonna go with him. Although, just I wouldn't be surprised if Ray wins because it's Ray.
Yeah. You hit me here, hit me saying this, but Ray does not need a win here. I'm sorry, does not need it.
Oh no, no.
And not for nothing, but Chad Gable's been one of my favorite, mid carders the last couple of years, man. Honestly, the way they really utilized this guy. Vince tried to put the Shorty G thing on him, and he's survived that. Honestly, yeah, he's been one of my favorite mid carders, and even his character work's been really, really good. So reward this guy with a win here. I mean, on Grand stage. So I'm with you, El Grande Americano for the win. All right, the match I'm looking forward to on this night, Jade Cargill and Naomi, man, cannot wait for this one.
Okay, so this all depends on what they want to do, right? If this is just, I mean, if they want to extend this thing out, then I think Naomi will win. But if they just want Jade to win a match, to win something and go forward, then they're gonna have her win. And I hope not. I mean, I'm concerned that they're gonna do all this and then Jade's gonna win like quickly. Not like a 30-second squash or something, but I do worry that they're just gonna do this, that they've done all this, and then Jade's gonna just beat her up for 5 minutes and pin her. I hope that doesn't happen.
No, and I don't think it will happen, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I mean, well, it's just, I mean, so this is you know, yeah, this is where I kind of, I've been critical about the way Hunter books a lot of women's stuff as far as stories and feuds and all of that. And it would be his MO would be to just do one match and then it's over.
Yeah.
That's his MO with this kind of stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if Jade just beats her and then that's the end of it. I think I hope not. But I'm rooting for Naomi to win, and my little fantasy booking is that they bring up Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson from NXT, and they come in and help her.
I think it goes two ways. I think Jade wins the quick one, or Naomi wins in a brawl, in a hardcore one. And I think Naomi's gonna win this match because I think really, as much as they're trying to get Jade here, ready for for prime time. I think there's an opportunity here for Naomi to really, really, this heel turn's been great. Her last couple promos she did on SmackDown has been phenomenal. I'm bought into it. I never really bought into Naomi as a heel until these last couple promos, and I'm in. And I think this is the reset that she needs here. She's been so underutilized the last like 5 or 6 years now that I think obviously health being an issue, of course, because she's always had injuries here and there. But she's someone that you can put a IC title on. You can put a world title on her. Again, it may have to be a long one, but I think I'm believing what she's doing here. That I think this is a 2-way thing here. Yeah, Jade's going to develop here, and Naomi won't win clean. But I think this is they. If I see Naomi win a world title next year, it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me.
I guess it just comes down to what their intentions are.
Yeah, how they do it, we'll see. But I think if she has a world title between now and WrestleMania 42, it would not shock me. So I'm gonna go Naomi in this one. All right, U.S. title on the line between LA Knight and Jacob Fatu.
I think LA Knight survives here because I think it's about time for Solo to mess something up for Jacob here, whether it's intentional or not. And Solo hasn't been, he's nowhere to be found on the show. So I think, again, whether it's intentional or not, he ends up costing Jacob the match.
Yeah, with you. I'm with you. I think LA Knight wins because Solo does screw Jake Fatu, which opens up that feud between Fatu and Solo. Fatu will turn babyface at some point within the next couple months, if not sooner than that. And I think Fatu is the guy to looking at. There's not, I don't want to say the next guy, but definitely one of the next guys who could really make a mark in the next year or so. So give me LA Knight to win this match because the story is really about Solo and Jacob really right now. So all right, this is your match. WWE Women's Championship. Timothy Stratton and Charlotte Flair. Wait, Timmy time? It's Timmy time?
Hell no. And look, and I'll even make the case that she should not win. Okay,
of course,
because I mean, she's objectively speaking, I think some of her shortcomings have been kind of exposed here.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. And even before Charlotte even came back, I mean, and so, and also, I mean, like she won the belt in January. If she keeps it here, then I mean, now you're talking about going into what 5 or 6 months, her as champion, and then while you have Charlotte and Bianca and Naomi and Nia Jax on the same roster, and yeah, so. And look, honestly, I mean, I think they probably should have put this off until next year.
Right.
The reason I'm saying that is because they've never worked together. Usually these WrestleMania matches are between people who've been working together for a while, and they have never worked together in any capacity. So I think that's a lot of the kind of the awkwardness is from that. And yes, I think the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the whole thing's been kind of badly crafted.
I don't think there's any way she wouldn't. Tiffany Stratton wins this match. There's no way. I don't see any scenario she wins this match whatsoever. I think if anything, we talk about a lot of times there's a lot more value than Chase, and obviously some of her shortcomings have been shown in this feud. I think at this point right now, the best thing for her is a little bit of a reset, not a massive one, but there is value in Chase. I think I see a scenario where Charlotte wins this match. They do a rematch at SummerSlam, and Tiffany wins that match.
Yeah,
I see that.
Or I mean, if you really want to, I mean, are you ever win the Royal Rumble next year? I mean,
yeah,
and and then come back and beat her next year, or I mean, because they've teased a couple of times Charlotte and Jade. So I don't know. I mean, but I think right now the best thing to do, even objectively speaking, I think the best thing to do is to take it off because I think probably Tiffany should be a heel also.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. But look, the crowd is cheering her, man. I get it.
You know why that is?
She's hot.
It's got nothing to do with her, because I mean her character there's nothing, good or virtuous about her character even, and she hasn't really even done anything good, right? I mean, so like she's not getting cheered for anything her character has done, or I mean, and she's her natural role is being basically like a mean girl heel type of character,
right?
And
so she's miscast. What you're saying?
Yes, yes. And I mean, because I mean, personally, I mean, I think she'd probably be better off. I think she'd be better off on Raw because you have Rhea and you have Io and you have Bayley over there. I think she'd be better off working heel against them.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Charlotte's night.
It's Charlotte's night. Yeah.
It's Charlotte's night. I don't see any scenario where Tiffany wins this, honestly.
I mean, unless just Hunter is just hell bent on pushing the new girl. I mean,
could happen. I mean, we know.
Yeah, that's possible. Can't rule it out.
All right, and finally, the main event from night one, we got Roman Reigns versus CM Punk versus Seth Rollins in a triple threat match for the rights to Paul Heyman. Really, I don't know. That's what it feels like. But honestly,
the Paul Heyman on the pole match.
You know what's funny? This story has really been the bigger. not bigger, but it's been a more interesting story between the two main events, honestly.
Yeah, but again, and this is the value of having people who work together. They have, of course, Roman and Seth have been working together for over 10 years.
Right.
And they both did work with Punk at the beginning, and during the Shield years, and they both have real life kind of issue with, Philip Jack Brooks. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So all of that, you know, plays into it. So that's why I think it's been, of the two main events, I think it has been kind of the more coherent story leading up to the match. Now, as far as who I think is going to win, I have no idea. I mean, well, because
Seth has won a WrestleMania match since 35, I think. Honestly.
All right. He beat Rock at 35. 36 was
COVID, and
he lost that one. I think it was Kevin Owens, and then 37, he lost that one. He lost to Cody.
He lost to Cody. 37.
He beat Logan Paul. He beat Logan Paul. That was 39, I think. He beat Logan Paul.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, for the world title, right.
But he loses most of the. I mean, he has lost most.
He's a Shawn Michaels of WrestleManias.
Yeah, and so, I think so. That's reason for him to win. Of course, Roman lost last year, and that's the reason. It's kind of like the Undertaker, right? I mean, you're not gonna have him lose 2 in a row necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think it could be either one of them. I think Punk's just happy to be there, just because this is what he always wanted. He always wanted, this has been the white belt for him, and he finally got it. So I think he doesn't care either way.
It's to me, it's between Roman and Seth. I don't see no scenario where Punk wins this match whatsoever. I don't see it. I'm leaning Seth right now. To be honest, I'm leaning Seth.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I flip a coin. I mean,
of course,
because I guess it depends on also again what do they want to do after? Because if you want to continue like the kind of Roman Seth drama, then Seth should win.
What's the better story, the Roman Seth or Roman Punk? With the Heyman stuff.
I mean, with the Heyman
there.
Oh, it's Roman Punk with the Heyman stuff. Seth, that's the one thing I would criticize about the lead up is that Seth flirting with Heyman doesn't make any. That feels kind of tacked on to me.
And it feels like, I think that's part of the swerve because I think I said in the podcast last week. Like even if Seth does get, I think you said this, even if Seth and Paul Heyman do match up, there's a scenario where they'll split up like within a month.
Or I can, I could see Paul just being disgusted with both Roman and Punk and helping Seth win just because out of spite.
Yeah.
I can't see a scenario where Seth is walking around with Paul Heyman for some extended period of time.
It's not a fit. It doesn't. It's not a fit, man. It's not a fit at all. But I'm gonna go Seth for the sake of the story. There's no chance that Punk wins this match. I think it's between Roman and Seth. I think I'll lean Seth right now at this point. So, all right, there's night 1 for Saturday. All right, WrestleMania Sunday, night 2. Here we go. First match on the list: the Women's Tag Team Championship match between Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria.
I'm assuming the champs retain because this is their first defense, and then. Yeah, and Bayley and Lyra just got slapped together as a team, and Lyra's already Intercontinental Champion. I can't, I don't see the point in her being like a double champ or something there, So
yeah, if I had, to go NBA awards here, if I had to go like most improved roster member in the last year or so, I think Liv Morgan in the last year has really improved. I mean, Liv Morgan. I mean, look, I didn't buy her as a world champion. Over a year ago, but what she's doing now in the mid cards and now in a tag team situation now, I think she's been easily her best work she's done. Easily her best work.
Well, I think her lane as far as ring work, I think is tag teams and like multi-woman matches and stuff.
Correct.
they've never really put her out there in like a long singles match on like a pay-per-view or anything. But I think this is like the perfect kind of lane for her here.
Right. No, it's perfect. She's to me, she's been. I'm gonna say she's MVP, but she's definitely the most improved person, male or female, on that damn roster last year. So job well done by Liv Morgan. I also believe we agree with you. The champs to retain. All right, this match I believe should kick off night 2. AJ Styles against Logan Paul.
Yeah, and I think Logan wins this because they got the just his whole involvement with Karrion Kross with
Yeah, I saw that on Raw.
So I think that's going to some kind of way lead to the finish. And I think Logan Paul wins.
Yeah, I'm there with you too. I got Logan as well to win this one. Oh, this should be a banger. I'm looking forward to this match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, we got the Fatal 4-Way match for the IC Championship, but I'm looking forward to this match. This is probably the most underrated match of the entire weekend, in my opinion. You have Braun Breaker, the champion, versus Penta, versus Finn Balor, versus Dominic Mysterio. I'm calling my shot here, buddy. I'm picking Dominic.
I think it's either him or Braun keeps it. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you.
No, Finn is 0 because they're doing. They've been teasing the split between Finn and Dominic forever. So, um, because of that, Finn can't win here, and I think.
Yeah,
I don't think Penta wins either, and I guess the only thing is like if Braun Breaker loses, is he going to go out? I mean, he's kind of stuck right now because until they're ready to send him after the world title, he's kind of stuck right now. And I don't see if he's going to be stuck. If they're not going to send him after the world title this year, then I don't see the point in taking the belt off, the IC belt off.
You mean Braun? Yeah, I agree with him 100%. Because he at this point he's the next. I'll say it, he's the next Brock Lesnar type.
Yeah, and I think I think right now, again, until it's time for him to go after the world title, I don't see the point in him dropping the IC belt. Because I don't see any point in having him walk around for a whole year with no IC belt and not going after the world title either. So
yeah, there's the story here really is in between Finn and Dominic, and I can see Dominic screwing Finn, and then that whole thing, and then eventually Dominic wins the title, but then I see Braun getting it back within the next month or two. So I can see that situation. But I agree with you. It's gonna be either Dominic winning it or Braun retains.
Yeah,
either one works for me, honestly. All right, the Sin City street fight between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. This has been one of the most underrated builds of this entire Mania season.
Yeah, and again, they got history going back to last year with Damian cashing in the briefcase on them. So again, it helps to have history, and
absolutely.
That's me. And that's just a recurring thing. It helps to have history. They got history, and I think they're just going to beat the crap out of each other for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Who you picking?
I think Priest wins here, though. I think because
you do. Okay.
Yeah, well, unless they're going to keep it going. If they're going to keep going, if they're going to extend it, then I guess then okay, then Drew will win. But
yeah, I can see that because I can't see too many heels win tonight. So you need a face to win. So I'll go Damian for that wreck because we all picked the heel so far.
Yeah.
All the way through, unless Braun decides to win the match in the title match. But I will say this much though, in case of Drew McIntyre, I would love for him to get back in the world title picture.
Yeah, and then I think, and that could happen. He could end up beating Jay after Jay wins it, right?
Right, correct.
I think he would. He would be a good guy to do that with, really.
Absolutely. And I think there's history there too with those guys as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah. They've locked up a bunch of times. So yeah.
All right, next match here. 2 more to go. Only 6 matches this card actually.
Well, that's because there's the mystery with Randy Orton and who
Of course, yeah. True that match for the Women's World Championship. Looking for this one. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. Obviously, the Bill's been shit. We all agree with that. We've been on this podcast the last 5 weeks criticizing the Bill's been crap. However, we also do agree that this match will be a banger. I already called my shot. I got Io win this one because I think the story is Bianca and Rhea going. I think Bianca Rhea rivalry does not need the title.
Oh, okay. So I think Io wins. Now, the thing is, okay, so if Naomi wins on night one and they end up extending that, then I think Bianca's just going to go back to SmackDown and get involved over there.
Right.
Because her and Naomi have not squared up yet.
No.
So,
there's no draft coming up, right? There's no draft at all.
They haven't said anything.
Okay.
They're going to. I mean, I imagine they're going to shuffle some people around though.
Right.
And then, I mean, if Rhea wins, it undercuts the whole whatever it is they've been trying to tell with her. I mean, yeah, I mean it doesn't make sense for her to win because this whole thing is supposed to be about her being impulsive and all of that, and costing herself things. So it would, I mean, but I guess, but again, it comes down to intentions. Like, are they trying to tell a longer story with that here, or was it just, or did they just do this to kind of shake things up for a few months?
Right.
It is possible that they just did this to shake things up for a few months and Rhea will win the title back, and then, you know,
you were saying like if the only reason Tiffany Stratton would win that match against Charlotte is because Triple H trying to push her girl. No, I agree with you with that, but I think he'll be pushing this one. Io will be the one she'll be pushing, not Tiffany Stratton. So I think Io will win this match for that reason. For that reason, anyway. And I think again, Bianca and Rhea don't need a title whatsoever. They can feud if they do decide to feud going forward, and then figure it out from there. I've been saying all week, all month long, like this whole feud has been very convoluted, but I have no doubt that when they get this thing in the ring on Sunday night, it will be a banger without question.
Yeah.
So, all right, and finally, the main event for night 2 is the WWE Undisputed Championship between Cody Rhodes and John Cena, going for number 17. Does he do it?
You know what? I mean, at first I was convinced that he was going to win it. And now I think it's 50-50. Because one, there's the whole matter of his schedule. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I think there's, and ultimately, we know he's going to turn back before this farewell tour is over.
Right.
It's just,
you sure? Are you absolutely sure about that? Because I'm not entirely sure about that. To be honest with you, I think people keep saying that, but I'm not convinced that's going to happen.
well, I'm assuming it is because, yeah, I mean, assuming that he is going to ride off into the sunset at the end of the year, I think then, yes, I think it is. Yeah, it's a matter of when. And like I'm 50-50 on this now because, again, there's this schedule, and then if he wins, then
Here's my thing too. Also, the schedule. I can agree with you on that. Okay, so if he wins the title, okay, so he's gonna be wrestling on a Roman schedule, like every month or 2 months, or if he loses, then what's the story beyond when he loses? Is there a story there if he loses? Is it gonna bitch next like 5 months, 6 months?
Well, I mean, if he loses, I think just Rock comes out there and said, "You failed, you loser," and turns on him.
Was this turn just a little bit of a blip, just to like garner ticket sales, and then Rock, calls him a loser, and then you go back to face again? I don't know, man.
I mean,
it's a lot. It's so open ended.
I wouldn't do it that way, but and I got to give credit to our boss at the Chair Shot Radio Network, Greg DeMarco. He was the first one that actually put this out there as an idea.
Okay.
Of Cody winning. Because we were all just assuming that Cena was going to win. He threw it out there first as a possibility, and then you go back to the you go back to the babyface run the rest of the year. And I thought when he first said that, I thought crazy talk at first, but I mean, I don't think because again, this the schedule, right? I mean, if he
Yeah,
wins the title, then he's filming stuff, right? Like he legit will not be there. I mean, except for when it's time to do certain dates, and so having him as champ, I mean, that's
but
tough.
to be fair though, Roman did do that in his last year. He was on a part time schedule. He would wrestle once every like 3 4 months, put it out on the line. So it's not like he
Yeah,
couldn't do that. I'm not saying or suggesting they do that for the record. I think that's bad business. But at the same time, there is a precedent already set by guys who are active anyway, as is now. I know I'm with you on the 50-50 thing because like as much as I think Cena's gonna win. All the things outside the bubble of wrestling do impact how they might book this thing. You know, again,
yeah,
and there is value to the chase for Cody. Not saying it's been a good title reign, a very good title reign, but there's value in the chase though. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And here's the thing, right? I mean, like those of us in the IWC have, some of us have been saying, well, Cody's reign is tired, blah blah blah. The general audience is still fine, is still very much fine with him
Oh, a
being
question.
so that and you got to think about that, like what is the larger audience would be perfectly fine if he won and stayed champ.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think you're not there will I don't think you're not going to have any type of major fan backlash if he holds on to it.
totally agree with you on
Um,
that. Totally agree with you on that.
and so I think you that's part of the equation because you get yeah, I mean because if Cena wins and again you got another part timer holding the belt again, and then Cody's gonna be there every week, right? So
Yep.
and then and then you got to come up with stuff for Cody to do, right? And then and then
I mean, you could hot potato like you did back in the Attitude Era, where like, and Triple H knows all about this, especially too, where Cody Cena does win it on Sunday, and then the next night on Raw he loses it in the rematch. I don't know. To
I
pop
mean,
a rating on Netflix. I don't know, man.
well, I don't think I don't think they would get that crazy now, but um,
That's 1998 booking, buddy.
yeah, it's just what I mean. I guess I don't. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, him winning, Cena winning that night makes sense to a degree, but like him, but going on as champion for any length of time afterward really doesn't.
No, it does not. And is
Um,
17 that important? Remember we were speculating last year, like, is Roman beating Hogan's record of title reign? I mean, amount of days and whatever. Is it that important? And clearly, it wasn't because he fell short.
well, and
Is
well, I
that
think
17 important to WWE? Is that really that important? They love breaking records though. They love having something new to promote.
um, it depends. I don't know. I mean, um, it's as important as they make it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's. I don't think they made it in this case that important. I think, yeah. I mean, because to me, like if they'd had Cena get a few title shots and then fail each time, then it would be more important. But this is his first title shot, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just I mean, like because they had him fail a few times, and then kind of built up the desperation, then it would make more sense for him than for him to win it as a heel. But it's just yeah, and after the show's over, like I said, it would make sense for him to win it that night, but it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for him to have it afterwards very long.
Right.
And then but then look, you got the same issue either way, whether he loses it back the next night or he loses it back at the next PLE, it's still the same thing,
Yeah.
right? So I'm gonna lean towards Cody. I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say Cody. I'm gonna say Cody wins.
I'll go for the sake of being different. I'll go Cena for the sake of being on the panel here, being different. But again, I think it's very close 50-50, especially too. And I think the mystery about that, I think this is one thing about WrestleMania this year that's really, really cool is that you really can't pigeonhole anything. Like some things are kind of obvious, but there's some things like the main event stuff, especially too, with both main events, you can't pigeonhole anything because it's so open ended. Because you can make a case for everything. You can make a case
Yeah.
for Seth, for Punk, although I think Punk has a very less likely chance of winning that thing. Roman, of course, but then of course you can make cases for Cena and Cody. So I think the mystery behind all this, the bookings, gonna be really great. That's what I'm looking forward to, seeing the puzzle being filled out finally after WrestleMania. That's what I'm looking forward to more than anything else for this weekend. So
Yeah, because
WrestleMania. Yep. Go ahead.
because honestly, last year felt like last year was kind of like the end of last year was kind of like a final chapter because you had Cody finishing the story and all of that.
Yep.
This year feels more like it's a conduit to what comes after,
Yeah. Correct.
and I think so. You know, yeah, I think this year is, and that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes WrestleMania is an end point, and sometimes it's a kind of it's a pathway to what's on the other side.
And to your point too, also you said a conduit for the future. Seth on Raw this past Monday kind of alluded to that about how like the winner of this match is going to be it defines the future of this company. So
Yeah,
in some ways, what you're saying there is very much correct based on the story they're trying to tell on that side of the aisle.
yeah. So I think this year is definitely one this year's WrestleMania is more about what happens afterwards than what happens that night.
Right.
Last year was all about the show itself. Last year was all about what happened that night at the show. I think
Correct.
this year is more about what happens afterwards.
A lot of people look at WrestleMania as the end of a story, but a lot of times people forget that WrestleMania sometimes starts a story to begin
Yeah,
it. So this could be a beginning of something here.
and I mean, it all depends on like what they're thinking. And honestly, I think this year you're probably better off doing that because I mean, definitely there were some things like underneath the main event level last year that that during the rest of the year that got kind of stagnant and redundant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think using this as a way to you know kind of kickstart things.
Yeah, supercharge it a little bit. Yeah, into high
Yeah, I
gear,
think you'd be better off doing that.
setting the tone for the next
Yeah, because I think
calendar year.
like this year, this is an important year. I think is because if they're just if nothing else, this law of averages, like their prime. This is a year where things could fall off or plateau. Just, I mean, not even because of anything they're doing, just because you can't go up every year.
Well, and to your point, like we mentioned on a couple episodes back, where like the ticket prices and ticket sales this thing, sky high and whatnot. One of my coworkers, a buddy of mine, he's going to night two. You were correct. That number you told me, that how much for Upper Deck is what he paid for night two, $700.
And
So
that's,
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's insane, and people gonna buy that shit though, man. But at the same time though, it's not that the product is not good, but there is, when this kind of feels like 1991 right now, WWE. Like things have leveled off a little bit now. It feels like leveling off a little bit after this year. Could be, you know what I mean? Not that things are bad yet. We're not into the steroid trial era
no.
just yet, but it's getting to the point where like it's leveling off just a little bit now.
Yeah,
Like
and I
post
mean,
Mania 3, post Mania 4, post Mania 5, that whole golden era was it's just to level off a little bit.
yeah, and I think, look, I mean, I don't think they're in any danger of having any major fall off. I think things are set up well enough now that that won't happen, and I think
Mm-hmm.
they're not so dependent on one person, like
Right.
and also, I mean, when they tried Warrior after he beat Hogan, it didn't pan out, and then they didn't really have any other option.
Right.
I think now, they can, if nothing else, they can rotate the belts between Cody and Seth and Roman and Drew and Priest
There's a lot of
and
guys there that could touch that thing and be
yeah, and
okay.
then if you
You'll
just
be
want to
okay.
like, if things are getting to a point where one guy holding it for a while just isn't working anymore, they got guys they can rotate around. So I think they're better. They're in a much better shape now. But it's just you can't go up every year.
No.
Things are just not going to go up. And they've been going up now for like 3 or 4 years every year.
Right.
It's just sooner or later, you hit a plateau. If nothing, if and they're kind of ripe. They're kind of ripe for the picking to hit a plateau here. And
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
and to that end, it's important that they do kind of, jazz things up a little bit with the product, because you don't want to hit a natural plateau and then your product starts slipping also.
That's true.
Because that is how you can end up, actually taking a step back.
Right. Agreed. I totally agree with you. All right. So that's WrestleMania 41. Enjoy it, of course. All right. 2 things to get out here. First off, we're going to continue our series here. Again, we mentioned earlier, the guy named on TikTok, the OVW Dropout. He just did a series, of course, on his TikTok page. Wrestling content creator, about 3 people who shouldn't be in Hall of Fame. We've done the first 2 parts on the last 2 weeks. Part 3 here and now. Here are the 3 guys that he believes should not be in the Hall of Fame. If I can find this quick, there it is.
Yeah, bro. Time for you to get out of there.
Oh, wait.
Disrespect. I'm sure you're a cool dude, but we got to keep some type of legit.
Hold on, I got to rewind that. That's not prepared yet. If I can find that real quick. There he goes. Boom. All right, there we go. It's a little different here. How to rewind that? 0, 0. There we go. All right.
3 people who should not be in the WWE Hall of Fame in 60 seconds or less. Part 3. And of course, if you don't like it, then I just don't give a. Number 1 is none other than Hillbilly Jim. Bro, who the 0 championships won, no major wins? Yeah, bro. Time for you to get out of there. No disrespect. I'm sure you're a cool dude, but we got to keep some type of legitimacy about this Hall of Fame. If you're in there, they'll just let anybody in there. Oh, I'm sorry. They already do. Number 2, I didn't say it, y'all said it, and that's the Bella Twins. I mean, I know one of them was messing with John Cena, the other one is married to Bryan Danielson, and they had their own, Total Diva show, whatever they had, but dog, let's just be real for a minute. When we're talking about the greatest women's wrestlers of all time, nobody mentions the Bella Twins. For anybody who's going to try to defend them in the comments, name one match that either of them had that was so amazing. Name one moment that either of them had that impacted the wrestling business in a positive way. Nothing? Okay, bet. Next. Number 3 may be a little controversial, but y'all know me, I don't care. Unfiltered wrestling takes, no cheap pops over here. Number 3 isn't just one specific person, it's a group, and that's the NWO. I praise the NWO for changing the landscape of professional wrestling, but let's just be honest. That was WCW, not WWE. If you want to get technical, they were in the WWE for about 30 seconds, but Kevin Nash got hurt, Hulk Hogan turned babyface. I don't know what happened to X-Pac. Nobody cares about the Big Show. And please, somebody tell me why Shawn Michaels was even in the group to begin with.
That's true. I agree with that part.
Like I said in the last video, I know WWE purchased WCW in 2001. If they want to create a separate wing with all the WCW guys, definitely put NWO in there. But this is specifically for WWE, nobody else. Somebody mentioned in my last video that the WWE Hall of Fame is pretty much the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. No, it's not. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to have people in the comments trying to argue with me either way, so it is what it is. Hey, make sure you like, share, and follow me for more wrestling content. And if you want a part 4, just let me know.
Oh, there'll be a part 4 definitely, because he did a part 4. He did do a part 4. He did do a part 4.
Okay.
All right, let's get to the first guy, Hillbilly Jim. I actually agree with him on this one. Much like I do like Hillbilly Jim.
He's right.
Like he was popular in terms of like his gimmick and the whole thing. But he didn't do anything of note, storyline wise, even in the years before I started watching. So I actually agree with him on this one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He didn't have a particularly long run either.
No, dude, like he got what, 84, 85 maybe?
Yeah, and then like he was like the original part-timer. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not hating on Hillbilly Jim, of course. I mean, obviously great character and fun and all that. But I have to agree with him on this one, actually, man. I mean, it does feel like one of those things where you just throw him in there because you want to throw him in there. Like, nah. I agree with him on that one. All right, the Bella Twins. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't watch the Bella Twins in real time. Obviously, I know how popular they are, and obviously, dating John Cena and married Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan. And obviously they were influential in the Divas, of that world into what we have today. I've seen the in-ring work. Not a fan personally. Very attractive. Obviously, I'm not hating on that. But again, Hall of Fame is about impact, and you can't deny impact. They got to get in. Just based on impact alone, they got to get in, even if I don't like their work. Okay, so I disagree with that one.
I mean, look. First, I mean, Total Divas did actually bring in some fans, so
yeah.
So you can't. I mean,
impact.
Yeah, so you can't. I mean, you can't deny that. Now, Nikki actually became a good. She did because she was never great, but she did become a good wrestler. Brie was not very good at all. She was okay. But so no, neither one of them was ever a great in-ring worker. I mean, Nikki does have some good matches against some people. So yeah, to that end. No, they weren't. There are no great Bella Twin matches. There are some good There are a few good matches that Nikki has, but
yeah,
I mean, Impact though. I mean, so yeah, I mean, like you can't deny the impact that they had, like just bringing in people to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, Nikki was I think she was the longest reigning Divas champion, I believe. Yeah, I think she was. So I mean, that's not nothing.
Yeah. Impact's impact, and whether or not you like them in the ring or not, but it's sports entertainment. So it's not just about in the ring. It's also what you did around outside of that as well too. I get it. All right, last one here. NWO. Look, I get it. I get the whole like WCW thing, but here's the thing: the NWO by proxy forced WWE actually to change course, and who knows if the WWE is still in business enough with NWO existing and what happened there with the One Night Wars, whatnot. That alone should get some credence there.
Yeah,
I see the argument like, oh, they're not from the WWE. I get the whole argument that, but the thing is, here's the bottom line: you got to bake that in. They bought it. You got to bake that in. Sorry.
That and well, I mean, okay, so one they recognized several other people who did not do much of anything in the WWE already.
Right.
And look, Kevin Nash was WWE champion, so it wasn't like he was, he actually did do something in WWE. But I think, yeah, I think you do recognize them because again, Impact. No, you can throw out the whole time that their WWE tenure was trash, and you can throw that out entirely. But as far as what in WCW Impact, absolutely. And it changed the business. It revived the wrestling business. Like you said, it forced WWE to adapt. And
I think the three main guys also in WO were three huge guys in WWE. Also, talked about Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash.
And yeah, and then they still sell a lot of merchandise
to this day.
Today. So it's yeah, I think they do belong in there.
I get the angle of the argument is warranted, but I think at the end of the day, you have to just kind of get over that. And like I said, they bought that company like literally over 20-something years ago. Like at some point, you have to get over that now.
I mean, it's not like I was gonna say they're not like the Dangerous Alliance, which was that was a good faction in WCW, but
that's a better argument.
If they inducted the Dangerous Alliance.
But I think go ahead.
If they did that, that would be ridiculous.
But here's the thing, too. Here's the reason why you have to kind of get over that whole thing, all WCW thing, because there's a lot of people who probably started watching wrestling the last 20 years who were not privy to the Monday Night Wars in a different company. You're still watching WCW programming in hindsight on the WWE platform. So by nature, you pretty much are acknowledging that it is a WWE property at this point now, which it really is.
Yeah.
My kids, don't know anything about WCW, but they know that WCW doesn't exist, and they watch it on a WWE platform. So that should give it the break there. So that's why I don't make it a big deal about all that anymore. So NWO should absolutely look. We agreed that the actual NWO run in WWE in 2002, 2003 was fucking terrible. And yeah, the Shawn Michaels part. What the hell was that all about? That was stupid as hell, dude. What are you doing? But at the same time, you can't ignore, even from proxy, the amount of business they did, even in influencing WWE's turn in 97, 98.
And
there's that.
And I don't mind them inducting people who didn't have any real time there, because it's the only way somebody's supposed to get recognized now. Like the Fabulous Freebirds did not wrestle in WWE, but the only time you hear about them now is from documentaries and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or people who I mean, so for me, it's okay for them to have gotten recognized, to have gotten inducted. The Von Erich family, they inducted the Von Erich family. Von Erich family, other than Carrie was there for a little while,
Yeah.
but the rest of the family didn't wrestle there. But it was good for me to see them get that recognition.
Absolutely.
They inducted Thunderbolt Patterson. They inducted him last year. He didn't. I don't think he spent a day there in WWE. But he's somebody who should have gotten recognized for his wrestling career, and that's the only place it's going to happen. So, I don't mind at all. No, I mean, if you had a career that's worthy of recognition, then I'm perfectly fine with them inducting you, even if your career was not there or your best. Lex Luger's best days were not there. Okay. But Lex Luger's WCW career was absolutely Hall of Fame worthy. His WWE career was not.
And I imagine if he does a part 6, and us is in the part 5 or part 4, Luger's name will pop up somewhere.
Oh yeah, but I mean, but I'm happy to see Lex Luger get the recognition.
Yeah.
And Diamond Dallas Page, happy to see he got recognized, and his WWE career wasn't worth a damn.
That dude's a godsend though, so he should get it anyway. This would be the godsend.
Yeah.
Saves so many lives with the DDP yoga.
Oh,
all right. Before we get you out of here, what is your wrestling pick of the week?
Hot take.
Wrestling hot take.
I have a good one.
Go ahead.
Shoot, I thought about. It's time to retire the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Ooh. Really? Like the whole concept?
I think it has run its course, and it's gotten to the point now where it hinders more people than it helps. And where they have to, and in a lot of years, they have to just burn it off really quickly, because there's, like with the men's briefcase, like 5 out of the last 10 years, like basically the men's briefcase, it's like 50-50 now that they even cash in successfully.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like multiple times where they've had failed cash-ins on the men's side, because now it's gotten to the point where they're kind of booked into a corner where they don't really need it. Like there was a time where they needed that to kind of spice things up, and now they really don't, and it's not really helping. It just doesn't really help, and
it convolutes to some of the creative, I guess, throughout the year.
And well, yeah, now see now it does, and same thing on the women's side, because now it's like, okay, somebody wins it, and then usually now most of the time on the women's side they cash it in pretty quickly, so they don't even keep it around very long. And then, but then also it kind of binds you. Well, it puts you into a corner, because now you have to do this thing within a year, right? And so now you have to do it. And to me, it's outlived its usefulness. It's more of a hindrance now than I think it helps anybody.
I have to be honest with you. I see your argument. I'm not saying I agree with you, but I definitely see the argument, because there have been years recently. Now, granted, this year was actually a COVID year, but it was understandable. But the year Otis won it,
right?
But you know damn well that he was not say worthy, but he was not.
He wasn't going to win.
He wasn't material.
He wasn't going to win a world championship.
It was silly, and the way and it felt like, okay, well, somebody's going to cash it out, and then this whole thing with the Miz, and it was all convoluted and all that. But Look. I think the money to make more than anything else is supposed to elevate people, women and men alike. And it does do that for the most part, but sometimes they put on the wrong person, like Liv Morgan, for example, who did not deserve to be a world champion, obviously. But I get why it's there, but honestly, there's an argument that to be said that it's run its course, and especially when you have and I think here's where I'll give you a credit for this one, because you've added more titles, especially on the women's side now. You have an IC championship also too. There's no need to have it now because you have enough things to reward people with to elevate people. The men and women. You have a U.S. title, obviously, on the men's side, IC title on the men's side, the 2 world titles. Then you got the women's side, you got 2 world titles, the IC championship, tag team championship. You don't really need the money back anymore, honestly. But I get why it exists. But there's an argument which is to your point, that it has run its course, probably.
Yeah, and I think so now, I mean, and I actually have an alternative.
What's the alternative?
Well, because there's the thing in TNA, they call it option C.
Oh.
And what it is that if you're the secondary champion, like if you're the Intercontinental, they have the X Division champion. If you're the secondary champion, whenever you want to, you can call for a title shot at the world title, but you got to give up your secondary title.
Oh, that's creative.
And you can just you can just call it whenever you want. You can just come out there and say, I mean, it's not like you don't come out there when the person's laid out, but you come out there on one night on TV and says, you know what, at the next pay-per-view, I'm doing option C, and and I want my title shot.
Title's vacant, and title's vacant, of course.
And then so you vacate, and then that can do a lot of things. You can, if you want to switch if you want to swap the world title, you can do it there. If you want to just get the secondary belt off of the person who was holding it, right? They got to vacate it, so you can,
And as someone who loves tournaments, especially too, that would be great, actually.
Yeah, and so I mean, for me, I mean, I think I would do that. I mean, the other option is, this is also from TNA. They have the Ultimate X, which is it's basically the same type of match, the Money in the Bank ladder matches, but.
Right.
And if you get it, then you can also, but get a title shot whenever you want. But the difference is they don't do it at the same time every year. Like you don't know when they're going to do the Ultimate X match in TNA. They just say, oh, next pay-per-view, we're doing Ultimate X. It could be in February, it could be in June. And in that way, you're not stuck with the same, on the calendar. Where they get the briefcase in July, and now you got to do something with it before, next July, or preferably before WrestleMania, and you're not. So by just moving it around, doing it at different points of the year, that way you're not stuck on beholden to the calendar. Right. I think that could help.
That's a good take. I like that take. It's a great take.
Thank you. Because I just been thinking about because it's just. Sometimes things just run their course. Like there was a time where it was a good idea to have a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, right? It was a good idea when they first started doing it, but then it gets to but after a few years, then you find yourself having to, book the feud so that it ends, so that everything heats up in October when you have the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, right? And then it gets kind of just obvious and transparent after a few years, right? And so it's just, I mean, it was good for what it was. It served its purpose, and it did definitely elevate some people, but it can also, it can also undercut you too. Like if you're a baby face, right? Because, I mean, if you're a baby face winning with the briefcase is not really a baby face thing to do,
Right. That's a good point.
And it that can kind of undercut you as a baby face because you use, this thing to win instead of winning it the right way.
Right. No, I'm with you on that one. No, I want to retire it. Just put it away for a little while. Just like put it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
bring it back later on.
Yeah, you never just retired of stuff for good, but you put it away for a few years,
right?
And then when you bring it back, then when you bring it back, it's kind of rejuvenated or whatever,
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they will do that. Who knows? So, all right. My hot take for today, or this week rather, is, have you ever seen the conclusion of WrestleMania 12? Like after Brett lost to Shawn Michaels?
No.
Like the conclusion, like, when he was on camera, he was like, I'm not sure if this was kayfabe or not, because it felt like it was real. He was like pissed off and, like frustrated that, how he lost and all that. And it was some like coarse language in there too. Also, it hit me watching that, because I've seen it a couple times actually, but it hit me watching it recently. Bret Hart is the greatest world champion in WWE history. Let me tell you why. Not because of any particular title reign or this and that. I think the seriousness of how he carried that belt.
Okay.
Whether, in the way he sold it, the realness of how he sold matches, obviously in ring, but also the way he carried that belt like it really meant something. I'm not saying Hogan didn't, because Hogan did obviously carry like it meant something, and Roman did in his reign. But Bret Hart took that to another level in a way where it was, you forget that this is a scripted entertainment. Bret Hart made you believe in the midnight, and I don't have to probably do the fact that he was trying to, because things were so rough for the company, that he had to fight extra to stand out. But Bret Hart made you believe that when he lost the world title, it was like close thing to dying. And the fact that he fought for his title matches, the fact that, like, if he got screwed up a title match, like the Final Four thing in '97, was that to the Austin feud again? Also, just the seriousness of it, when Bret Hart took that world title, whether he had it or not, was on a level that I've never seen from any other star in the history of this company. And to me, that's why I think he might be the greatest world champion, because of the seriousness he took that belt. Even scripted entertainment, of course. Now, better reigns, obviously, we can debate that, and Roman's reign, of course, and Hogan's first one. That's not the conversation. I'm talking about like the personality and the belt and the seriousness of how he took that belt. He treated like royalty, pretty much.
No, I guess neither one of us saw Bruno, but the feeling, the vibe I get is it was kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That Bruno was kind of he was regarded as highly as the heavyweight champion of the world, right, back then.
Right.
I mean, he met the Pope. I mean, and all this type of stuff. I mean, he was a serious, especially in his community. He was a serious, Italian American sports hero.
Absolutely.
Back then, like, it wasn't just, he's that guy that does the fake wrestling. No, I mean, he was seriously revered, back then.
And I feel like if Bret was doing what he did at that time, it'd be the same thing. Because I think Bruno took it seriously the same way that Bret did. Bret, unfortunately, had the unfortunate circumstance of being champion in the worst era, as you said before, in not just WWE history, but pro wrestling was sucked in the mid-90s as a whole.
Yeah, it did, and that's not his fault. But
so I think, look, I'm not going to sit here and say Bret Hart's, when I put Bret Hart as a top 3 champion of all time, no. But when I look at the seriousness that he took that championship belt, I think he could be argued as the greatest champion just based on that alone. Now, obviously, again, how he was booked, and that's a whole different conversation. But just the way he took that belt, I mean, it felt real to him.
Okay, I'll give you that if we're talking about how he presented himself as champion.
Correct. Right.
Okay. I'm willing to listen to you here a little bit.
Right.
Although
I don't know, put his reign ahead of Hogan's.
Although I would say to that end, Bruno probably was more so of that,
right.
in how he presented himself as, well, when was also Bret, was kind of a mark for himself. I mean, he did take. I mean, for better or worse, for better and worse.
Of course, it was. Yeah,
he did take it more seriously than everybody else.
Right. That's my point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, good or bad.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, and I mean, and that's ultimately, unfortunately, one of the things that led to the screw job, because
Correct.
he took it so seriously that, you know, dropping the belt to Shawn, the way Shawn was acting, the way Shawn was carrying on, he legit felt like that was a disgrace to have to drop it to Shawn.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I will, I will humor you as far as, on that one.
Yeah. Again, this is what I call hot takes.
Yeah.
And Rob, good job as always. Plug what you need to plug.
As always, every week you can hear me on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast with DJ and Jason. And now you can hear me more frequently on my own show, the Rob the Genius Podcast, because we are, again, I'll say it again, we are up and running again thanks to Wave Pad.
Yes. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yes.
And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at EJ7, Earnestly Podcast. There's False Con anywhere here, part of Earnestly Podcast. Of course, guys, we crossed 400 subscribers recently on YouTube. So again, follow me on YouTube at Earnspeak Pod on YouTube, or on TikTok at Earnspeak Pod. And until the next episode we do, enjoy WrestleMania 41, guys.